Heavy dessert. I stuck it there. No. It's your hands. It's beautiful.
Craig, can you hear us? Can we hear you?
I can.
Fantastic. All right, well, it is 6:30, so do you want to give it a couple of minutes or do you want to get started now?
Yeah, let's give it a couple of minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, agreed.
Or too melted, maybe? Seems a little melted. That happened. They see you eating? No.
I think we ought to get started, probably.
Okay.
You want
me
to
give?
give the usual,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So, well, welcome everybody. We're glad to have you participating in our monthly transportation committee meeting, and hope you had a great summer. So, if this is the first time you're joining us virtually, or maybe the first time in a long time, if you forgot over the summer, we'll give you a few rules of the road of how the meeting will be run. You'll notice first off that everyone is muted except for our co-chairs, Chuck and Craig, and the presenters as we move through the agenda. Following each agenda item, the co-chairs will call on members of the public who wish to speak. You can participate by going to the react icon on your device and pressing the raise hand button. It's not the wave or the thumbs up, those will disappear. Only press the raise hand button once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down. If you're calling in from the phone, it's star plus the number 9 to raise your hand, and then star plus 6 to unmute whenever you're called on. Be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once one of the co-chairs calls on you. The chat is available for technical support only to help with Zoom software problems. It's not to ask questions of the co-chairs or the presenters. They will never see those chats. If you're using an older version of Zoom, you may need to go to the participants section where you'll find the raise hand feature there. And if you're using the most newest version of Zoom, I think there's a new raise hand button somewhere else. So it just happened over the summer. So we haven't updated our script yet for that. And finally, we encourage you not to raise your actual hand or wave at the screen because your hand, we may miss you and we may not be able to see you. So if you're having any problems, just chat me. I'm here for support. And with that, I'll hand it over to Chuck and Craig and they can get the meeting going.
Thanks, Will. I'd like to welcome everyone to the September meeting of the Transportation Committee of Community Board 8. I'm Chuck Warren, the co-chair of the committee, and Craig Lader, my co-chair.
Hi, good evening, everyone. And before we begin, I do want to just on behalf of the Transportation Committee give a huge thank you to Will because this is going to be his last meeting as our district manager for this Transportation Committee. So it has been just an absolute pleasure to work with you. And I just want to say on behalf of everyone, thank you for all that you have done for us to be able to help coordinate all of our meetings and to help us organize the agendas, to keep them running smoothly, and everything that you have done behind the scenes. So you will be immensely missed by the entire board, but especially this committee. So I just wanted to make sure that while we had the most people here, before anyone starts dropping off, that we acknowledge you. So
And
thank you.
I second that very heartily. Absolutely. We thank Will for everything. Okay. Let's see, our first item is we have a presentation, the MTA New York City Transit, and it's about the changes to the F and M trains, and we're doing this as a joint item with the Roosevelt Island Committee, and Paul Crickler is here, who's the chairs of that committee, and he's also a valued member of our Transportation Committee. So do we have the folks here from the MTA who are going to present on this?
Yeah, we have Luke and we have Ruby, and who all needs to be unmuted from your team?
Yeah,
Hi, everyone. This is Luke DePalma from Government Affairs at MTA. Ruby Benitez will be representing Government Affairs for the presentation. So Ruby?
Hi, everyone. So we just need to unmute Alan Foster. He is our Director of Railroad Planning. So he will be giving the first half of the portion of a presentation, and I will follow on, and then we can answer questions at the end.
hey, right as you go ahead, Ruby. Turning on, sorry.
Alan, can you go ahead and say something so we can hear you?
Yeah,
Okay, great.
hi.
Go ahead, Ellen.
Okay, we have a presentation to show you. Apologies, just trying to get the share working here. Here we go. All right, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so yeah, what we wanted to talk to you about today is the swap of the F and M trains between Queens and Manhattan. And the service change is just within this red box here on the map. That's the only place where service will be changing. And just want to show you a little bit about why we're proposing to do this. We're proposing to change the routes of the M, which currently is on 53rd Street, to reroute it to 63rd Street, and the F, which is currently on 63rd Street, to reroute it by 53rd Street. The reason we want to do this is because there are a lot of merging moves that have to happen at Queens Plaza with the current service plan. There at Queens Plaza, the M and the R merge together, the E and the M merge together, and the E and the F merge together. So their trains are kind of crisscrossing there, and what that means is that any delay on one of those lines can end up delaying all four lines. So our proposed change here is that we will reroute the M train via the 63rd Street line, which just sort of straightens the route out there through Queens Plaza. And then the F will be rerouted via 53rd Street, where it used to be prior to 2001, for those of you who are in the area then. And so this eliminates some of those merging moves at Queens Plaza and will make service more reliable. So again, this is a swap of the F and M routes just in that corridor there, right between Queens and Manhattan. The new service pattern will be in effect only on weekdays from about 6 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. And during those hours, the F will operate via the 53rd Street line in Queens Plaza together with the E. The M will operate via the 63rd Street line and Roosevelt Island. And there'll be no change to the current service late evenings, nights, and weekends. So this is only in effect during those times when the M normally operates along the Queens Boulevard line. So evenings, nights, and late evenings, nights, and weekends, the F will continue to run on the 63rd Street line the way it does today. And the M will terminate at Essex Street on late evenings and weekends as it does now. And overnight, there'll be a shuttle train between Metropolitan Avenue and Myrtle Avenue, same as today. So the change is only along those 53rd Street and 63rd Street corridors. In Queens, the F will remain the Queens Boulevard Express, the M will remain the Queens Boulevard Local, so no change there. So who will see this change? The change only affects service at 8 stations. The F currently serves 21st Street, Queensbridge, Roosevelt Island, Lexington 63rd Street, and 57th Street, 6th Avenue. After the swap, it'll serve Queens Plaza, Court Square, Lexington 53rd Street, and 5th Avenue 53rd Street. And then the flip side of that is the M currently serves Queens Plaza, Court Square, Lexington 53rd, and 5th Avenue 53rd. After the swap, it'll serve 21st Street, Queensbridge, Roosevelt Island, Lex 63rd, and 57 6th Avenue. So why do we want to do this now? Well, you may recall back in 2023, 2024, we had the 63rd Street track replacement project, which was a 24/7 service change for several months. And during that time, we rerouted the F train via 53rd Street. And along 63rd Street, we had a shuttle train. So it's not quite exactly the same service plan as we're going to be doing with this FM swap, but it was similar in that the F was on 53rd Street and we had fewer conflicting moves at Queens Plaza. And we found that during that time that we had more reliable running times, people's trips were faster, and our on-time performance was better during peak times, during the peak hour. So, we can see the benefits of simplifying the operation through Queens Plaza. So we'd like to do that on a permanent basis. So that operational improvement is achieved through route simplification, eliminating that shared track segment between the E and the M. So the E will now be sharing track with only 2 lines instead of the 3 currently, and the M will share track with 3 lines instead of 4. So, but by having fewer merges, that reduces the delay risk to the E, F, M, and R lines, and it also isolates any delays on the local tracks from affecting express service and vice versa. So yeah, much less opportunity for delays to propagate across all 4 lines. Currently merges at Queens Plaza delay approximately 15 to 20% of rush hour E, M, and R trains. So we believe that will be much improved with this swap. So what does that mean for customers? Well, the benefits are broad-based. It'll increase reliability and reduce delays, which improves service on the E, F, M, and R for all customers in Queens and Roosevelt Island. It'll result in a net travel time savings with 2.5 times more customers benefiting from shorter travel times than seeing longer trips. And it'll reduce crowding for riders at 63rd Street station. So instead of having a crowded F train pull into those stations, you'll see a much less crowded M train. So there'll be actually room to get on, which will be a bonus. And it'll capitalize on a never before used direct connection between the 63rd Street line and the Queens Boulevard local stations. So that opens up some travel opportunities that don't really exist now for the customers at those local stations. They'll now have direct service to Roosevelt Island, 21st Street, Queensbridge, Lexington 63rd Street, which they don't have today. The drawbacks are limited. The 2% of affected customers will see a travel time increase of 4 or more minutes, but just 2%. And during rush hours, the M is slightly less frequent than the F, so customers boarding at those 63rd Street line stations will have about a minute of additional wait time on average. But again, the trade-off for that is the trains will be less crowded. We will be adding M service in the AM and PM peak hours to reduce wait times for M riders and bring the service closer to the service levels on the F. So currently, the F has an average wait time of 2 minutes The M with the added service will have an average wait time of 3 minutes. That's in both the morning and evening rush. So it's about a minute of extra waiting time on the platform. And I'll hand it back to Ruby.
Thank you, Ellen. So, additionally, we wanted to put a little bit of emphasis of what we have done at Roosevelt Island Station in the past and currently. So, in last year of Q3, we did a improvement of the station under our renovation program, where we did an entire deep clean of the station. We also, which included like the facade, and we actually changed the light bulbs in the station itself. So 510 light fixtures were cleaned and converted to LED. We also cleaned all the glass surfaces and removed the graffiti, and we repaired and replaced missing and broken ceiling slats. Additionally, we have cleaned the artwork that was within the station. Now, currently, we have upcoming projects. First, in August of 2025, we installed safety barriers at the Roosevelt Island subway platforms. You can see from the images here, our actual team were out there installing these safety barriers that you see now. And then during this week, specifically the weekend of September 5th, you're going to see the front door being replaced at the Roosevelt Island station. So we're finally replacing the door, so now it can be automatic and it can't be held by current caution tape. Continuing on, we just want to give you an update on our current schedule and steps for this actual implementation of this F&M swap. So as of May of 2025, we had begun public outreach where we informed elected officials, community board members, and other stakeholders of this plan. Currently, we're in the fall portion of this where we are presenting the plan. We will represent the plan to the board, but also go on to other community boards and the public to inform them of the change. And then in December of 2025 is when we're actually going to implement the F&M swap service change. Now, once we actually start the implementation phase, we'll be looking to pivot into doing publicized communication and comms outreach for our community and our customers. This would mean we'll be updating our maps. We'll be providing look-ahead posters, informing communities and specifically the stations that are getting affected, the 8 stations, what their new commute will look like and how they'll be affected by it. We'll be handing out brochures and handouts, also providing a website and digital feed for people to be informed. And we will be providing announcements within the actual train. So at the beginning, when we do this implementation in December, the trains will have announcements informing folks what the next stop is, so they can start getting adjusted to the swap itself. We will also be updating our screens and our station signage, and we'll be having customer ambassadors at the beginning of the swap to remind customers of the said swap, where they need to go and answer any questions they will have during this implementation phase in December. And that's where we are with the presentation. We're just going to open the floor now to any questions anyone has from the board.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan and Ruby. As is our practice, we'll start with members of the public on this. And if people want to raise their hand.
Yeah, if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment, just look for the raise hand button at the bottom of your device, or you may need to open the react icon on your device to find it. You have a hand up from Dylan and then one from Max.
Okay. Why don't we see Dylan Yen first? Go ahead, Dylan. I'll unmute Dylan.
Hi, guys. Thank you really very much for giving us this presentation. My name's Dylan. I live on the Upper East Side. I guess count me in on the 2%. Because I rely on the F train, not just for commuting, but to visit family and friends in Flushing and Forest Hills. With no clear timeline on the full return of the full express service on the 7 train, the F train and the Queens Boulevard Express is my lifeline to get deep into Queens in a timely manner. With the service change, I think my trips every other day into Queens will be significantly impacted, requiring 2 or 3 transfers to get where I need to go. And it's not like there's no demand for F train service on the Upper East Side. If you stop by 63rd and Lex in the afternoon, it's jam-packed. And a lot of doctors, nurses, and first responders that worked in the Upper East Side hospitals use the 2nd Avenue subway and the F train to get back home to Queens without multiple connections through Midtown. With headways increased by 50%, according to your presentation, even with the increased service pattern, this change will kind of make it harder for them to get home. I understand that de-interlining may create less service disruption, but I'm a little bit skeptical about it only affecting 2% of commuters. Thanks.
Thank you. Max, if you could identify yourself for the record fully.
Yep. Hi, I'm Max McLaughlin. I also live in the Upper East Side, and I'm one of the 2%, which maybe is no surprise. But my comment was specifically that Lexington 63rd is very close to Hunter College, which is like a pretty big draw for the community. And you've noted that only the morning peak and the evening peak are going to have increased service on the M. So I'd just ask you to consider maybe like increasing the M train service throughout the entire day, since especially with the hospitals as well, this is like a neighborhood demand spot that's not necessarily just used in the morning peak and the evening peak. And I think I'm not sure exactly how much worse the M train frequency is in the midday, but I think it's significantly worse than the 1 minute that is in your presentation. So I think for those commuters who rely on the midday hours, I would ask that you'd maybe commit to improving M train service for all hours that it'll be running through the 63rd Street tunnel. Thank you.
Thanks. Next is Autumn. If you could identify yourself fully for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Autumn Bosco. Can you hear me good?
Yes.
Yes. I live on Roosevelt Island, and so this is gonna affect me a lot. But I'm fine with it. Of course, I mean, you know, it's it's good to have local service because sometimes you don't want to express past the stations in Astoria, for example. All those people are going to have access now to Lex 63rd, which I think is good. But one big problem I have with it is that if I'm going to get used to the new local service, I don't want it taken away from me every weekend. I know that's a big I know that's a big change to run the full M service on weekends. I think Queens Boulevard local riders deserve it, and I think that 63rd Street riders deserve a consistent service that isn't changing all the time. Because if I'm going to get used to having access to Astoria, like I said, I don't want it gone every weekend. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'll recognize someone I know well, Gail Suchman. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you. I'm Gail Suchman. I also live on the Upper East Side, and I switch to go to work at the 63rd Street line, and I switch from the Q to the F. We waited a long time in the Upper East Side to have parts of the city opened up to us without, the horrific transfers that we used to have to do, go down to Grand Central, switch to 7, take crosstown buses to the west side. And the F train is a unique train. It's the only train that goes to certain parts of the Lower East Side. It's a direct access to St. John's, where I happen to teach, and also easy access to the airports, both airports, the connection. So if by putting in the M, it definitely would have to, it would make a connection into 3 different trains. It would significantly increase any commute out to that far to Queens or to the Lower East Side and other areas along where the F line currently goes. And it's and I also am very skeptical that it's going to be a 1 minute extra wait. But this is something that has been offered to the East Side just recently, and it's a wonderful connection and really should stay exactly the same. Otherwise, we'll all be taking 3 trains. And even the connection to the F down farther downtown, like 14th Street, is a terrible connection between those trains. So it's going to really increase people's time travel.
Thank you, Gail. Next, Diana Sudeikis. Go ahead, Diana.
Hi, thank you so much. This is my first time joining a meeting like this, and I have to say I am one of the people who am also in that 2%. I'm sorry, my husband's putting my baby down, and he's obviously as upset about this as I am. I commute from the Q to the F out to Kew Gardens, I work for Legal Aid Society, and having to go back to the E train transfer at the godforsaken 53rd Street stop last year during the track replacement was horrible. And it made me so grateful to have the Q and F back. And I just don't see how this has been thought out to run 2 express trains through 1 track. I understand that that will help with signaling delays, but why not invest the capital to fix the underlying antique signaling infrastructure that the MTA has, instead of selling out the commuters who need your system to get to work? So I really hope that this plan is reconsidered, because I see it adding significantly more time. I'll have 3 train stops or have to go through the E-train transfer, which is a nightmare. So I hope this can be reconsidered. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Judy Birdie from Roosevelt Island, the historian of Roosevelt Island. Judy, welcome.
Yeah, well, historian, listen, the F train was bad in the 1960s when I wrote it from Queens. In simple, I'm looking at the map. I'm not that old, don't worry. The M train will go from Roosevelt Island to where? 5th Avenue and 59th Street? Bypassing Lexington, is that what I'm seeing on the map? Can someone answer that?
I think Alan is mute, so he's not able to answer. So if someone can unmute him. Thank you, Will.
Okay, I think I'm gonna mute it out. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yes, but the M train after going southbound, after Roosevelt Island, the next stop would be Lexington and 63rd Street, and then 57th Street, 6th Avenue, and then Rockefeller Center, and continuing on its present route.
I'm just looking here. I don't see Lexington and 63rd. I must be getting blind. But it will go to Lexington and 63rd, then it will go to 59th and 5th.
No, Lexington and 63rd, and the label for that M station is above it. The label underneath that belongs to the train.
Okay, well,
I can see the way the
doesn't-
labels are placed. It's a little confusing.
we're used to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lexington and 63rd, then it switches back to the 5th Avenue and 59th.
No, at Lexington 63rd.
No, then it goes to
57th Street.
Then it goes on the regular route. Okay, fine. I did not want to lose my connections to the Q train. Okay. I'll figure it out. Thank you. That's a little confusing, but I'll do anything to get on an M train, an F train that you can actually get into the car. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other members of the public that you see, Will?
No, I'm not seeing any.
Okay, we'll take, before we, I don't know whether, Paul, you
Yeah.
know, you want to say something as for the Roosevelt Island Committee?
I would like to. Thank you, Chuck. So, Alan, thank you very much for the presentation. Very clear. My question is about, it follows on from what Autumn was saying. It's not just the weekends, but it's also every night. We'll be switching backwards and forwards. And I see the danger as being a bit more than Autumn was talking about, you know, getting used to a route and then having it taken away from you, then back again. A lot of people are going to end up in the wrong part of the city. So a lot of people are not going to know about this. Doesn't matter how much you tell people the first few days and plenty of publicity, people are going to get on the wrong train. If they're coming home to Roosevelt Island after a day's work and they end up in Queens because they got on the wrong train, a lot of people are going to get very annoyed. But also I can imagine myself, imagine if it's 9:30 at night and you're somewhere like West 4th Street and you're being careful about it. You think at this time, I think by this time it's going to get to that place at this time. So I should get on the F train or the M train and you can work out which, but you're going to get it wrong because something happens to one of the trains. And then all of a sudden you end up in Queens, not Roosevelt Island. So whatever you do about going forward with this or not, I'm really curious why you want to keep switching it. I would much, much rather, just from a user point of view, have it one or the other. So that's my comment and question, please.
You want to respond to that, the MTA folks at all? Or respond to some of the
Sure, yeah.
questions and concerns that people had?
Yeah, I can respond to that about why the service changes nights and weekends. So we're not able to run the M on Queens Boulevard nights and weekends because we have planned work going on, particularly our CBTC signal upgrade work that's been going on for several years. And so we're just not able to run 4 different routes on the weekends. And because we could schedule it that way, but one of those would have to be suspended every weekend practically for the planned work. So, realistically, we can only accommodate 3 services on the weekends because of the planned work. So, that's why the M does not serve Queens Boulevard currently on the weekends. And because of that, we have to, when it's not running, the F will have to take over on 63rd Street so that we still maintain service to Roosevelt Island and Queensbridge and Lexington 63.
Thank you for that. Just for me, the argument is if you can't do that, we should wait. Because I just think you're going to cause so many problems for people by having it going backwards and forwards every night and every weekend. People end up it's not like we live on Manhattan mainland. You get slightly wrong, you can walk 10 blocks. We live on an island and we can't do that.
Yeah, and I think it'll be on us to get the customer communications right, to make sure the customers are informed of where the trains are going and when.
I think you're being hopeful. I mean, I still get confused when I hear an announcement coming through the loudspeaker, and I know that route pretty well. I think it's very hard to assume people are going to get this right. Anyway, I'll stop. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Board members, we have Lori Boris.
And then I'd like to speak.
Of course. Anytime.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. It was excellent. But my question, first of all, I want to say that I agree with everything that Paul said. I think that changing it nights and weekends is just going to be immeasurably confusing for people. But and I still can't even figure out when is it nights? When does it become night? Is it 10 o'clock at night, or is it 7 o'clock at night? Is it is it midnight? I don't know. So that's my comment on that. But my other comment is I've always been incredibly impressed by when I take the Q train to go anywhere. The F train is always there at 63rd and Lex. It's remarkable how many times it's right there when I have to switch train, from the Q to the F. So what will happen though if you're on the nights and weekends things, like when I go to the theater, for instance, or someplace, where is it? Since one is 53rd Street and one is 63rd Street, how is that going to connect with the Q?
Right. I mean, there will be something connecting with the Q at Lexington and 63rd Street. It's just that, yeah, if you're going out to the theater in the evening, it'll be the F train that'll be running probably when you're on your way back home.
But wait, I don't understand. So you're saying it would be a different train, when you go and when you come back?
Yeah, it could be if it's on the weekday and you're going, during the, 8 p.m. when the show starts, and then you're leaving at 10:30 or 11. Yes, it'll be the M earlier in the day, and then it'll be the F at night.
Ugh. Okay, that's really confusing. I don't think that's a good idea either. But anyway, okay, that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lori. So I want to also thank Alan and Ruby for the presentation, and I just want to give my non-New York City Transit transportation planning assessment of this, as someone who is very familiar with what it takes to have to look at redesigns and such. So I think overall, this plan makes a lot of sense, and I entirely understand the frustration among those who are going to have to endure additional travel time as a result of this. But anytime that any agency does a network assessment, there are always going to be the so-called winners and losers, if you will, in terms of you do your best to try to benefit as many people without adversely impacting the fewest amounts of people. And I think from everything that I know about this this segment of track and the way that MTA New York City Transit subway operations occur, I think I'm very hopeful that New York City Transit's going to succeed in terms of being able to increase reliability along these corridors and along these route segments. And that will be a benefit to most people. And I know that there are ongoing issues with capacity on the F train because it is of such a popular line, especially with the express segments. And I know that I've had difficulties trying to get on F trains many times at 63rd Street going in both directions. So I'm really optimistic that this is going to solve those issues. That being said, I entirely agree with Paul and everyone else who has commented on the confusing aspect of having this change only be in place during weekdays and not during overnight and weekend hours. And I understand that there are other parts of the system that also have similar types of service characteristics where things do change. That being said, it is very confusing. And I would strongly suggest, and I guess my question is, how long is the CBTC work going on for? And when you refer to that, that's communications-based train control for those who don't know the acronym. But I know that there is a project that is part of the current capital plan, the 25 to 29 capital plan, that relates to signal upgrades on the 63rd Street line. Is that what we're talking about here, or is that a separate project?
I mean, I think I was mainly referring to what's happened. The current one is the Queens Boulevard Line East project, which that's the section that's being done now. But yeah, should in not too long in the future, we'll be also replacing signals on 63rd Street and 6th Avenue.
Thank you. So my question is, you mentioned how long is the CBTC piece going to take, and then what is the time frame of the signal upgrades, and what are the impacts going to be as far as you know? And what I'm getting at is, you mentioned that because of CBTC, that New York City Transit can't run M trains 24/7, including weekday evenings and weekends. But over the longer term, is there a possibility that you may be able to introduce M train service 24/7 to reduce that confusion and to allow for that consistency to take place? Because I understand that you may need to make some service arrangements in the short term, but over the long term, I think we're looking for a consistent solution. I think you're hearing that tonight. And that's what I'm wondering, whether is a feasible longer term option.
Right. So for the CBTC work we're doing on the east side, primarily like on the R line and in that area, I can get back to you with the timeline and when it will be completed. In terms of, we'll take back the feedback about implementation of this said service in the long haul, but in the meantime, I can provide that information, how long that would take, and we can revisit the conversation once we do the implementation, see how it's working, how people are using it, and see if that could be something we can do. So we can revisit that later on as we go through this implementation stage.
Okay, yeah, that would be great if we were able to revisit that. And as we often do at our committee, whenever we have a major project that's implemented, we always like to invite New York City Transit or New York City DOT to provide us with 1 year post-implementation updates. So we would be very interested in having you come back and be able to report to us on what the impacts are and how it's impacting passengers, on-time performance, reliability, and so on and so forth. Complaints,
Can I jump in?
and any KPIs that you're able to talk about.
Sorry, Craig, can I jump in with something
Yes.
before we leave this? I would like to make the request. There's nothing official about this request from the committee as a whole, but there's enough people I know who care about this. We'd like to know, has consideration been given to not implementing this until that other work is done? I know you can't tell us now on this call when that's going to be, so that we can avoid this confusion. I really believe it's a big mistake. A lot of people on the island are very concerned about the ability to get to work because the F train's too full and they don't quite believe this thing. And if it turns out you're right, fantastic. They can get on not 2 or 3 trains to get on, but 1 train in the morning. But when the reality hits, people won't have given much thought to this thing about every night and every weekend it's switching, and you're going to have people ending up going a long way from home getting very angry. So I really would ask you to consider delaying this until you can have consistency, please?
Understood on that. Alan, if you want to give a couple of words, and then I will follow up with in terms of the communications outreach portion of what you guys are informing us.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, we'll take that back and take a look at that.
I mean, guys, this is Luke from the MTA. I just want to be clear about expectations. This is a plan service change that we are making in December of this year. So, while the Queens Boulevard line does have capacity constraints due to construction and resignaling and CBTC that precludes us from running, the M 24/7, and we have to substitute that with a local F. And that exists currently, and I don't think any of us have, a solid timeline that we can share on the status of that work and when it'll be completed, but it's well underway. Any review or changes to what we've proposed here or what we've shown here is something for the future. What we plan to do is make this swap effective December. So
I
just
tell you
want
what, I tell you what's behind the further pushing on this, Luke. So thank you
Sure.
for that. I get that. Because we remember we were obviously hugely impacted by the F train shutdown by the shuttle. But before the F train shuttle idea came along, you came to us many months before that with a much more complicated, much harder to understand version of what life would be like. And you changed your mind. So we didn't realize, no one here realizes it's a done deal. We thought we were being consulted at this point, like we were last time. That's all.
No, I understand. And I remember being part of that iterative process and was grateful for the feedback that we got. This is a little different. This is about, something that has been floated around the MTA for decades. Just decoupling this crossover of very, very busy lines that you have just east of Roosevelt Island. And so the reliability improvements that we anticipate, the less crowding of the train service as it passes through Roosevelt Island. Right now, Roosevelt Island F trains are at their peak load point. So anybody where you are on Roosevelt Island trying to get the F is letting trains pass or getting the most crowded trains. You guys know this, most crowded trains on the entire F. And you're going to get now trains with capacity that can handle the customer flow there. So there's a lot of, while there are trade-offs, and we're not discounting that at all. And thank everyone for the comments, for those that live in the areas where there are those trade-offs. There are benefits to the sheer majority of the customers and the overall system. So we're not saying no to future changes. We obviously need to make sure our communications are correct so that customers getting service, taking the train when there is the change in service to the F local are aware. We know we have to do a very solid job of that, and we hope you continue to give us feedback, and we will come back and let you know how things are going, and we will make adjustments as necessary. I just want to make sure that you guys understand that this is the plan there where we're going with, and unlike the Roosevelt Island, when we were doing the track replacement on 63rd Street, there's not as much flexibility to tweak this in that way based on feedback at the moment.
Thank you, Luke.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, Luke, for that.
Um,
I would also just be curious, has there been any analysis done as to how many people may actually benefit from this and now having new access to stations that otherwise they would have to go all the way out east to Roosevelt Avenue and then have to backtrack to get to? So say in the Sunnyside area, so and such.
Yes, we certainly did look at that. I don't have that number off the top of my head, but that definitely is one of the benefits.
Craig, I can follow up with that number, or we can provide you that information at a later time after this meeting.
Okay. Thank you. That was just more out of curiosity, just looking at the bigger picture here.
all right, before we go, we do have a couple of people who want to comment from the public still. Sharon Poe Marshall first, and then Judy will have the last word, Judy Birdie. Go ahead, Sharon.
Thank you very much, Chuck. And I wanted to also thank Luke, Ruby, And Alan, I appreciated your presentation. I appreciate the work that MTA does overall. I'm a big fan of the agency as well as of public transportation overall. I want to echo Paul Kirkler's request that this be delayed. And Luke, thank you so much for the clarification that this is something that's going to happen and in December, and that any changes would certainly happen in the future. But I do agree. I find myself strongly agreeing with Paul Kirkler in reference to the amount of confusion that it would cause overall. And I think that Lori touched on this. You leave in the evening and you're taking one train and you're coming back home I'm sorry, you're leaving in the earlier part of the evening and you're returning home in a later part of the evening and you're on an entirely different train. Um, when I have found that has happened to me, it's usually been, oh my goodness, I'm on the 4 train and really I was supposed to be on the 5 train, but I'm only going, 1 or 2 stops and that's it. So I'm jumping off and I'm going back in, the opposite direction. But that's not the case here. And I'm wondering to what extent, just overall throughout the system, where do you have one train that's going, where do you have one train earlier in the day and then in a completely different train in the evening? I think I should also mention that I live on Roosevelt Island, but my office is on the Upper East Side. So my travel world is essentially uh, within the 63rd Street station, the F train, the Q train, and I'm really bothered, notwithstanding the amount of work and public outreach that has been conducted so far. And thank you, again for all of this work, because I'm sure that some thought went into this. But I have to tell you that um, I think that this misses the mark, and I just hate to say that because I love the agency so much. So I would also uh, throw my hat in a ring and say as well, if this can be delayed, and I heard you loud and clear, Luke, that this is going to happen in December. But I think it's critical that the team brings back to the MTA overall that we're not really happy with this.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Our last speaker, Judy Birdie.
It's not a very good holiday present for us. First of all, I went through the Queens bus redesign recently, which we won't discuss, because you nice people, Luke, Ruby, and Alan, are not on the ground. There are no signs, there's no instructions. The people in just don't know what they're doing. They're just standing there. That's the frustration of the MTA. You put together all these wonderful plans, but it falls to people who don't know anything to stand in stations, to stand at bus stops, to try to help people. And it is extremely frustrating because Paul Crickler and I have spent hours working last year with the 63rd Street closure. And I just worked a ton of things with the Queens bus redesign. You guys are great, but it's the people on the ground that don't get it to the customer. And people are standing in Queens now. Where the hell is my bus? Where am I going? What is this? You've cut off all of Astoria in your new bus system. It does not work. The MTA does not think of the people. You think it all through, but the people who have to carry it out do not do their job. And that's our extreme frustration. because we have to put up signs. We have to call up staff at the MTA, say, do this, do that. We know this island. We know these routes. We know what has to be done. It just, it's a fight. It was a fight to get everything signage right, so people were upstairs, downstairs, all over. And that's the exhausting part of this. I mean, I understand work has to be done and stuff, but you have to have people on the ground that know what the hell they're doing and are there, and the people who can express this, because just putting on an orange vest does not give people any information or any assistance, and that's the frustration of the MTA. You people are great, but you got to get the people on the ground to be part of the team and make this work and have all of this publicized well in advance. Why did bus signs go up for the new routes 3 days before the bus route change? Tell me. I mean, this is the frustration of the MTA. And I'm getting too old to do this much longer. So you guys got to take it, and you got to go down line to make sure your staff and your employees know what they're doing. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Judy. Hopefully the folks from the MTA will listen to what's said about, especially what you said about having people on the ground who are able to really give folks directions that they need. So we appreciate you coming in your presentation, and hope you'll take back the things that you heard tonight. Thanks. Okay.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Next on our agenda is we have the folks from EDC here who are going to talk about ferry service and on the Upper East Side and the impact that it might have on the location up here. And do we have, I know we have a couple of people from the MTA, and who wants to present so we can unmute you?
Hi everyone, this is Tara. I believe I'm already unmuted, but I'm also joined by Nina Versosa, if she can also be unmuted too.
Right. Okay, yes, Nina, good. Go ahead, Tara.
Great. Thanks so much for having us, everyone. As I said, my name is Tara Das. I'm an assistant vice president on our government and community relations team. I'll pass it to Nina to introduce herself.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for having us this evening. I am Nina Versosa, and I am a transportation planner for the NYC Ferry team here at the EDC.
Excellent. Can everyone see your screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. So as we were wonderfully introduced, we're here to talk about the NYC Ferry Network optimization process. You may already be familiar with this. We announced this back in July, and this is the first time that we're ever doing this process. We'll go into a little bit more detail about what this means, but just as a disclaimer, one of the questions that we've been getting a lot has been about our public feedback process, especially if we can extend our timeline. Our official public feedback form did close September 1st, but we're still going to be taking the feedback that we get from tonight, the other community board presentations that we do throughout this month, and are really excited by the amount of engagement that we've been able to get and continue to get. So NYC Ferry, for folks who may not be aware, has had steady ridership growth since it first was introduced in 2017. In FY25, we had a record 7.4 million boardings, and we've been really excited about how all of our changes that have built on the system we introduced in 2017 have really helped support our growing ridership, as well as our other goals here around getting folks signed up for a discount program, folks riding more regularly, and also just having an overall better experience. So since we first started, we've implemented several rider-focused service changes. You may be familiar with the Rockaway Rocket, Rockaway Reserve. So if you ride the South Brooklyn route, we've introduced faster connections. We've had several additions and changes to some routes here and there, but we have not had a full rethink of the entire service. We have done some seasonal schedule adjustments. We've expanded the discount program. We've had some onboard and digital upgrades and improvements, but this is really our first time to think through how we can improve the ferry system through new connections, getting people to where they want to go, and improving that experience overall. So I talked about this briefly, but just to visualize the timeline of our development. So 2017 is when we first introduced NYC ferry service. In 2019, we added Brooklyn Navier to the Astoria route. In 2020, we discontinued Lower East Side, extended the Astoria route. We've expanded to St. George and Thorogsnext in 21. We added Governor's Island to South Brooklyn in 23. We implemented the South Brooklyn Faster Connection. So all of these have kind of been like add-ons to the existing ferry service. But what we're trying to do now is think holistically about how we can give riders more places to go, especially since most of our riders are trying to get to the big job centers of Midtown and Lower Manhattan. How can we speed up commutes and make it even more competitive for people to take NYC Ferry? How can we make sure there are more seats available? So sometimes on overcrowded routes, we sometimes don't have enough seats available. So we want to be thinking about how can we make sure that we are making our vessel usage more efficient so that people can board. How can we also just operate more efficiently so that we're not running empty vessels and that every vessel that we are operating is getting decent ridership? And how can we continue to reduce the subsidy? This has been a big goal of ours since 2022. We've successfully delivered on that, but we want to keep on delivering that. So as we think about system changes, we want to do so in a way that continues to drive that. So our process to date, we started in 2024 looking at an internal process, looking at our existing conditions. So analyzing our ridership data, our demographics, travel patterns, but also taking into consideration what we've heard from riders over the past years, what their experience has been, what we're hearing people want in terms of new connections within the system. And so as we drafted a proposal for these ferry changes, we not only took in consideration the data around travel patterns, but also what we were hearing from riders in terms of their needs. Then we developed the proposal that we published in July. So this draft proposal shows a new map, and we, as part of that, released a public survey. We've done a lot of canvassing. We've sent the survey far and wide, and have gotten over 16,000 responses total, which we were really excited to see. So that the public feedback form is now closed. It closed as of September 1st, and we are moving into this phase of developing the final network map. But as you know, we're still analyzing data. We're going to be taking into consideration the feedback we get today, and in the presentations we conduct in the coming week. So then taking all of that into consideration, we'll incorporate that feedback into the final network map. We'll then publish that publicly along with a report that shows our full process and an overview of the survey data we've received. And then we'll present that to the EDC board for final approval. And following that, we'll implement these changes in our winter schedule. The winter schedule piece here is really critical because that's where we do see our lowest ridership. Our highest levels of ridership are in the spring and summer. So we want to make sure there is a really strong runway for people to learn and adapt to the new routes and new schedules, so that there's a strong understanding of what the new routes are as we get into our highest season. So I'll pass it to Nina to walk us through those changes.
Thank you, Tara. So before we get into the changes to the Soundview route, I wanted to go over some of the system issues that we found during our existing conditions analysis. We think that these issues could be well addressed through the optimization process. We have different issues that we've identified for each route on this slide. I'll just highlight a few this evening. On the East River route, this is our highest ridership route with over 2.7 million riders in 2024. But with this high ridership comes some service issues, particularly with capacity and travel time. On this route, we find that people boarding at certain landings do not have space available to board the first vessel that arrives at their landing. These problems often come up when our service is most popular and perhaps most necessary for people, including morning commutes, afternoon commutes, and peak weekend times. This route also has 7 stops, many of which are located along the Brooklyn and Queens waterfront and are in close proximity of each other. These stops are very, very popular, and to operate safely and efficiently, we allow riders enough time to board and alight the vessel. This means that we have to operate with slightly slower speeds, and that means that this can take a long time to go from end to end. So within the optimization process, we are looking for solutions that could maintain the high ridership that we see on the East River route, while also improving rider experience and making travel time faster and providing more seats available on board. For other routes like the Rockaway route and the South Brooklyn route, we find that these routes, while they give good connections to riders in Brooklyn and Queens to downtown Manhattan, they're limited in the places that they can go in their existing configurations. People are using these routes for work today, and we think that providing better commuting options to places like Midtown could be a great way to improve ridership and increase the amount of people using our service day in and day out. For a route like the St. George, it's the newest in the system and has consistently seen ridership growth year in and year out. But the way it's designed today, it's fairly isolated from the rest of the system. It's really only serving Staten Island and the west side of Manhattan. So we think that through this optimization process, we're able to find options that can address a lot of issues that we've seen over the past few years of operating our system. So in the next slide, we'll talk about the different priorities that we have put together in developing and informing the design of the proposed map. Next slide, please. Okay, so Tara talked about earlier about the different goals that we have. The first 3 goals that we have are more customer facing. We want to give riders more places to go, speed up commute, and provide more seats in the vessel. And then the second part of it is really addressing the different service issues that I've mentioned in the previous slide. What we want to do is for our new proposal to balance both improving service for our riders while keeping cost in check and operating efficiently while driving down our subsidy. So just going through quickly some of these priorities, our number 1 priority is making it easier for people to get to Midtown. So Midtown is currently NYC's largest employment center, and it is one of the largest employment hubs in North America. Last year alone, NYC Ferry generated about 2 million ridership from East 34th Street. So in creating new connections for direct access, we're particularly focusing on creating new direct connections to Midtown and improving existing connections to Midtown. The next priority that we have is providing better interborough connections. So almost 75% of our ridership was using in interborough trips. This proposed changes then are really trying to create new interborough connections while speeding up some of those existing connections that are important for our riders. Next priority is that we wanted to create routes that have more space between stops. We want to prioritize more space between stops over a lot of local stops in a row to make trips faster. So as I've mentioned earlier, the more stops in a route, the slower it takes from one end to another. The last priority that we have is providing direct routing. Most of our riders do not make transfers on NYC Ferry, so our service changes prioritize direct routing to major destinations such as Midtown and East 90th Street over transfers. So in the next slide, we'll get into the changes to the Soundview route. So here we are proposing to combine the Soundview route with the Rockaway route. So let's start by talking about why we are proposing this change. So the Rockaway route is great for getting to the beach in the summer weekends. For sure, most of you have used it to go to Rockaway Beach this summer. But most days of the year, this route is super important to people living in Rockaway and Sunset Park who are using this service to commute to downtown Manhattan. This route, however, has a limited ridership base that it could attract by only connecting to downtown Manhattan. We would like to access Midtown or Uptown Manhattan and the Bronx to open the network to an untapped ridership market. And the other thing is with the Soundview route. So during morning commute times, boats that are heading southbound to Manhattan tend to have healthy passenger levels, but boats going back northbound on the same trip tend to return empty. So we recognize the importance of East 34th Street and East 90th Street stops as key employment destinations. So we're trying to solve both the issue of the Rockaway route and the Soundview route by combining them together. So it will allow the Rockaway riders to access Midtown and Uptown Manhattan, as well as the Bronx, while Soundview route riders, it will ensure that the boats going from Wall Street back up to the Bronx are returning with a healthy passenger level. It would also provide a one-seat ride for riders, Soundview riders from along the stops in Soundview route to the Rockaway. So with the combined routes, it will start from north, it will start from Thrugs Neck and stop at Soundview, then East 90th Street, East 34th Street, Stoy Cove, then Wall Street. So that is our existing Soundview route. But with the proposal, it will extend all the way to Sunset Park in Brooklyn and then Rockaway in Queens. So this will really, we think that this would provide our riders with our Bronx riders with wonderful recreational opportunities, especially during the summer weekends or when it's a nice day out in New York City. And for our Rockaway riders, it will provide direct access to employment hubs in Midtown and Uptown Manhattan. So in the next slide, we'll talk about the different benefits of the proposed changes that we are presenting today. So before that, we're showing the proposed and the existing map as well. So as you can see here with the St. George route, right now it is isolated from the rest of the network. So it currently connects from St. George to the west side of Manhattan. But with the proposed route map, it will now connect to Bay Ridge, then Atlantic Avenue, Pier 6, all the way to Wall Street. We're also proposing some changes to the East River route. So it will be split into two routes. So it's kind of a skip stop service. East River A would start at East 34th Street, then connect to Hunters Point South, Greenpoint, Hunters Point South, North Williamsburg, Dumbo, and then Wall Street. And then East River B would be alternating stop, East 34th Street, Greenpoint, South Williamsburg, Dumbo, and Wall Street. What this does is that any connections between East 34th Street and Wall Street would be a 12-minute boat frequency. So this would be very beneficial for connections between key terminals. And then we'll talk about the benefits next. So there are different impact of the proposed changes, it may vary from landing to landing, but across the board, service levels will generally stay the same or improve. System-wide, we expect net gain with improvements in frequency, connectivity, capacity, and travel times. All routes will now run every 45 minutes or better during peak hours. So that is from 7 to 10 a.m. and 4 to 7 p.m. Most riders will see improved travel times. And with better connections, every route will now have direct access to major job centers in Manhattan. Lastly, there will be more space on the East River route. We're boosting capacity by about 50%, which should help reduce crowding and cut down people getting left behind, especially during busy seasons. I'm going to pass it on to Tara to talk about the next steps.
Great. So as I mentioned, we're currently in the phase of analyzing all the feedback that we've gotten. We'll then use that to finalize our new ferry maps. And we are set to get UDC board approval by September 30th. So we're really focusing on a lot of that work right now in this month. Well, then when the winter schedule comes out will be when we implement those new routes and have them in effect to drive that learning and make sure that we are all set for spring and summer when we see our highest ridership. So with that, we will take any questions you have. I'm excited for the discussion tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Tara and Nina. First, we'll go to the public. And are there any questions about the presentation from the EDC folks here? Do we see anything?
I see one from Judy Birdie. I'll just remind everybody to go to the raise hand button on your device or look for the react icon to find that button.
Okay, we'll go. Let's hear from Judy Birdie. Go ahead, Judy.
That's so nice. Such a difference in agencies. What is the proposed running time from the Bronx to the Rockaways? What would that route take? How long would that route take? Soundview to Rockaway.
From end to end, it will take about 2 hours.
How long?
2 hours.
From
end to end.
I think that's a great idea for sightseeing tours. I think it's a marvelous idea. And I thank you for your creativity because I love New York Ferry and you guys know how to do it. And, I don't complain. There is something, and I really think that these new routes would be great. And I understand that, it's economical, but to me, they seem to be well thought out. And as a ferry rider from that Roosevelt Island station, I really thank you for your work and what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Paul Crickler. Go ahead, Paul.
Thank you very much, Chuck. Thank you so much for that presentation. The one comment on what you said, I love the idea of going straight from Soundview all the way down to Rockaway. It's so crowded getting on any ferries to Rockaway because there's so many people want to do it. So thank you very much. I think it's a great idea. Probably too late to influence your near-term decisions, but you're asking for ways to make more money, reduce the subsidy. If you double the ferry service on Roosevelt Island, you would induce a massive amount of demand. We're an island here. We have questionable F-train service, patchy tram service. If we have 45 minutes to wait between ferries right now, people don't bother. If you made that 25 minutes, you'd get a ton of people wanting to use the ferry working down 34th Street or up on the Upper East Side. Maybe you could have the Soundview ferry stop here, or you could double the other frequency. My wishful thinking, but anyway, since you're here, I'd like to make that request.
Okay. Good. Elisa Wagreich. And Lisa, go ahead.
Will the new Soundview route on the East River also include a new stop at Roosevelt Island and Astoria?
So
we need more service.
With this proposal, there are no changes to the Astoria route. We find that Astoria route is our second highest ridership route. We did not propose any changes to the Astoria route, mostly because right now it is working effectively in terms of its connections. We can also use 350 capacity boats in the route, so we don't have a capacity issues as much as we have with East River route.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the public that you see, Will?
No, I don't see anybody else.
How about the board? Anyone else from the board?
Wait, I think Elisa was not done.
Sorry,
Oh, okay.
one more question. To echo Paul, we think we need more service on Roosevelt Island. Can one of the new East River ferries come up to Roosevelt Island and get more people?
Nina, maybe she can answer that. Go ahead, Nina.
I'm taking notes, and we're considering all of the comments that we've received throughout this feedback process. So we'll add that to that list of comments.
Thank you. From the board, anything? I see Michelle Birnbaum. Go ahead, Michelle.
Thanks, Chuck. Thank everyone for the presentation. Did I hear correctly? Is it my understanding you want a resolution tonight? You're looking for feedback by the end of September. Did I hear that correctly?
That's right. Yeah,
All right. Well, then I know I spoke, but I just needed clarification if it was appropriate. I'd like to make a resolution to approve as presented.
Well, with people made suggestions here too, so.
Well, they made it very clear that they'll take that back. I have no expectation that they're going to make a decision tonight, but I certainly am happy to add to the resolution with an eye towards taking into consideration and possibly implementing the suggestions that were made at this meeting.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
Yeah, you have seconds from Sebastian and Paul.
Okay, Sebastian, okay. Any further discussion on that?
I'd like to speak. I have some comments and questions.
Go ahead, sure.
Great, thank you. So I just really want to thank you immensely for attending tonight and joining us and giving this presentation. We really sincerely appreciate that you made this effort, even though the formal comment period did conclude on Monday. I do wish that this process had begun earlier, because it really should have began earlier. And I'm saying this in just a little context for myself, so I apologize to everyone. I'm going to take a little time with this, but I do have some expertise on this matter. As the transportation planner, I literally did my master's thesis for graduate school on ferry transportation in New York City back 20 years ago. And a lot of what I actually put in my thesis has come to fruition through NYC Ferry. So this is very near and dear to my heart. And that being said, I do have a lot of concerns about not only the plan that is presented, but the process that has been undertaken to get to this point. So first off, I'm really disappointed, and then I'll get to my questions. I was really disappointed that there was only one public information session, and that it was only announced a week before it occurred, and that there was really little information that was provided beforehand. There were no existing conditions that were posted. There was really nothing that was done to promote it, and within a week it was announced and a public information session was held, and it was held during the summer timeframe, which really didn't give people a chance to participate for among those who may not have been captured at a ferry landing to be able to provide feedback. So that's my first frustration. And then my second frustration is I attended that one public information session, and it was about an hour in length. My frustration is that the video was posted as promised, but it was only posted in part. Only the first half hour was. And if you go to that video, the video ends with the presenters alluding to the fact that there were going to be questions and answers provided, because those who commented, who attended, had a chance to comment in the chat, and EDC did provide a lot of responses to that. But that video was cut off at that point before all those questions were posed and the answers provided. And I asked a good number of those questions. So I just need to understand, why was that not provided for the public to be able to view? I don't like to think that there was something that was in there that you didn't want to share, but I don't understand you why you were not being fully transparent with that. So I just want to ask that in a public setting, and I really hope you could set the record straight on that.
No, that's a really great question, and I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah, we understand that sometimes summer months can be difficult for engagement, which is why we tried our very best to make sure that we are getting to folks, hosting the webinar virtually, and then we also had canvassers at all of our landings to make sure that we are getting the word out. And though I know not everyone is in New York City over the summer, the fact that we have been able to have the amount of engagement that we've been able to have is really something that we are proud of. Now, as it relates to the recording, that was definitely not an intention to have it cut off after the Q&A. So we will take that back and make sure that we can get that Q&A up, because you're absolutely right. The answers to questions was really key to this. So we'll make sure that that's available.
All right, thank you. I really appreciate hearing that. So I just want to understand, was there an existing conditions report that was put together? And I thought I had asked that question and was looking for it, but I've seen some data that was posted, but I didn't see a full understanding. And I was especially looking to try to understand origin destination information, OD pairs, and ridership by stop on a weekend basis, because and it's on a seasonal basis, because as we know, there are huge differences between winter service and summer service. So do you have that available? And if not, is that something that you can make available so people can understand even after this is yeah, after this is likely implemented, so people can be able to go see how this came about and what the underlying data showed?
No, definitely. And I'm glad you brought that up. It was actually one of the things that we debated in thinking about whether we should release the analysis we had done prior to for the survey going out. But one of the things that we really wanted to make sure was that we are getting people's raw responses to these maps and getting a very human-centered approach to how people perceive these new routes and would experience them. But as part of our final deliverable on this before implementation, or between the finalizing the maps and implementation, would be to release a final report that provides more details on all of this, so that people can see the survey results in addition to the analysis that was done.
Yeah, that would be great. I look forward to seeing that. So one of the data points that I was interested in seeing as it relates to the Soundview proposal is what exactly, when you talk about vessels that are running relatively empty north of 90th Street, just what that level of demand is, and also what you expect it to be after you combine it with the Rockaway route, because just the logistics of ferry operations and knowing that your dry dock and center of operations is, I guess, the Navy Yard, because I see the vessels that are there all the time. But it's just a matter of circumstance that you're going to have to operate vessels that are largely running empty north of 90th Street, because it is a peak directional service during many hours of the day, especially on weekdays. And there aren't many people that are going to the Bronx during weekdays. So I don't understand, and maybe you could explain how you think that's going to change with a combined Rockaway Soundview route.
So, when we're talking about empty vessels going back to the Bronx, it's mostly coming from Wall Street coming back up to the Bronx. So by combining the Rockaway and the Soundview routes, we're able to pick up the passengers coming from Rockaway going all the way up to East 90th Street. So the boats are not going to be empty going back up.
You done any assessment to show that there's actually demand for that service? I don't know that you're going to see an influx of new passengers coming from Far Rockaway and Sunset Park that are going north of 90th Street because they're not employment destinations. If so, you'd see those same riders currently coming from other parts of the network and using it today. So I just question whether that's really the motivation for doing that.
I think as mentioned earlier, like in the presentation, East 34th Street as well as East 90th Streets. They're big employment hubs, and there are a good set of daily commuters coming from Rockaway and Sunset Park who are going to these employment hubs. And the goal of the proposal is to open up the network to those on top markets.
So let me ask this question. Did you consider at any point combining the Rockaway route with the Astoria route, so one of the fundamental concerns that I have, because I experience it all the time, I live right across from the East 90th Street landing, I'm a frequent user of it on weekends, is that it has gotten increasingly overcrowded, and on a regular basis, there are passengers that need to be turned away from the Soundview route heading southbound because the vessels are entirely filled by the time it gets to 90th Street. And the passengers then have to wait 40 plus minutes until the next vessel. So that issue is less of a concern, quite possibly, with the Astoria route, since East 90th Street is the start of the route, and you don't necessarily see those vessels filling up by the time you get to 34th Street and you see some of the transfers taking place and some of the passengers alighting over there. So have you considered some combination, whether it be a weekend route or whether it be full-time, combining the Rockaway route if you were looking to achieve these same goals with the Astoria route, which would also go to some of the achieve some of the comments of the goals, some of the requests that some of the commenters had at this meeting?
We can definitely take that comment and include that in our analysis when proposing for the final network map.
Okay, that would be appreciated. I also question, you're coming to community boards now, you say you had 16,000 comments, but you're looking to get this approved at the end of September so it could be implemented in the winter. And when you're referring to the winter, you're referring to the first week of November, correct?
So winter is from December to March. So that is the length of our winter season.
I thought your winter service has been implemented in early November. Is that not the case anymore?
It is, but it's mostly for the purposes of describing what a winter season would be. So it's that window.
But when would this implementation begin? When would the combined route start? Would it start in November, early November, or would it start in December or early next year? The astronomical winter, if you will.
So first, it has to pass the approval of the EDC board. So once it gets approved through that process, then we would have to talk to our operator, Hornblower, and that takes another 3 to 4 months process to execute. So that's why we haven't committed to a particular date. But once we do have that, we will be announcing all the different changes beforehand so that our riders would be familiar of the changes.
Okay, and can you just comment a little about the seasonality issues and the issues that I'm speaking of in terms of overcrowding? So just and using the prior presentation as comparison, I commented that I thought that the MTA proposal was going to benefit most people, and you heard there were some concerns about people who would have longer commutes, and that's going to happen. My fear is, I understand that there are serious operational issues and capacity issues with the East River routes, and I understand the motivation to split those two routes, split that into two different routes. That makes a lot of sense on its own, but it doesn't seem as if those changes are going to necessarily provide any benefits elsewhere in the system. And I think here, my concerns with combining Soundview and Rockaway is you're not increasing capacity, you're not increasing frequency. If anything, it's going to attract more riders because there are going to be more people, especially on weekends during the summer, who are looking to go past Wall Street down to Sunset Park or down to the Rockaways. And you're creating an extremely long route. And while from a tourism perspective, it could be great to be able to take a 2-hour boat ride for the price of $4 or $4.50, or if you get a 10 pass, $2.90. But operationally, with any type of public transportation, the longer the routes, the less reliable they are, the more chances you have for operational issues. So can you please speak to how you're going to assure that you're going to be able to maintain strong on-time performance and address capacity issues on a new combined Soundview Rockaway routes?
So majority of our ridership for the Rockaway routes, they often occur during the summertime. And I'm not sure if it's shown in this map, but in the map that we've shown, we're actually offering a summer shuttle service for Rockaway riders from Wall Street down to Rockaway. During summertime, we also offer special services to, so that dotted line, that would be a summer shuttle bus service to Rockaway Beach. And during summertime as well, we offer special services such as the Rockaway Reserve and Rockaway Rocket. And those offer options as well for different riders across the city to access a direct trip to the Rockaway.
And I'll also add
right?
point around like keeping to on-time service and how more service can create operational constraints. One of the things that we would also be doing is running more vessels as a part of this. So to Nina's point, I think solving for not only shorter commute times but also operational efficiency, we would be running more boats as part of this these changes.
So that's great to hear if you are going to be running more vessels. Is there a reason why that hasn't been done previously? I thought that you had only a certain amount of resources, whether it be financial resources or labor resources, to be able to run anything more. So you mentioned that you're trying to, I assume, be cost neutral or not increase subsidies. And obviously, the success of NYC Ferry is largely based on the fact that the cost of a trip is subsidized. But I'm a little unclear as to if that's the case, what the change is and why that hasn't happened previously, when you know that there are issues that have been occurring on a regular basis in terms of overcrowding and lack of reliability.
The special services that we do offer to the Rockaway, they kind of pay for themselves. So this year, for example, for Rockaway Rocket and Rockaway Reserve, we do charge $12 for those trips, and it pays on its own, and it has great ridership as well. So separate from that, in terms of the additional vessels that we're adding here, one, this is mostly due to the reallocation and redesigning of the routes. We're able to reassign a vessel to another route, and that allowed us to be able to run an extra shuttle service to the beach, to Rockaway Beach. And we do have limited number of vessels, and we also need a spare for accounting for any breakdowns. So that is something to also take note of.
Right, you need to maintain that spare ratio and have vessels in place.
All right, Greg, can we wrap it up
one
here?
more. Yes, one more question. So one of the things that I think is frustrating for passengers is the fact that it sometimes takes so long for the lines, the queues at the ferry landings to be able to clear up because it takes time for boarding. Is there anything that can be done or that was looked at as part of this optimization to be able to reduce the dwell times at landings? Like New York Waterway historically has allowed everyone to board, and then whether they and then tickets would be collected on board. And I understand there are some instances in which the distances between stops don't allow that, but in many cases it does. And I would think that from an operational standpoint would be just as valuable as some of the changes that you're proposing here. And then my other comment just quickly is, and not this is necessarily for us, but I'm not really clear as to how the St. George route that's proposed works. It looks very circuitous and but that's neither here or there at this point. But if you could just speak to the boarding and the lighting process, I'd appreciate that. And thank you really for all of your patience with me and for indulging me here. I really do appreciate it and give you credit for being able to be challenged like this.
No worries at all. Thank you so much for the support and for all the questions. In terms of the queuing, that's something that we are very conscious about. And this year, actually, we have upland agents that manages the queuing, and that definitely improves the boarding and a lighting process. As part of our contract with Hornblower, we're also exploring different ways of validating the tickets. That's another way of making the queuing process and boarding process a lot faster and easier.
And then to the second part of your question around the circuitousness of the St. George route, a lot of that connection really is in response to the immense amount of advocacy we've gotten from South Brooklyn and Staten Islanders to develop connection between Staten Island and Brooklyn, as well as connect Staten Island to the east side. Previously, if you see on the left, Staten Island really only goes kind of like this one route on its own to the west. And so what this does is create that connection, especially between St. George and Bay Ridge, which we've heard a lot about, and then connect up through all the transferability to the East River. So yes, I guess from Wall Street all the way to Midtown West, that would be a long route. But this I think accounts for people between Brooklyn and St. George to be able to access Midtown on the west side, and then also the east connections.
All right. Thank you for everything.
Okay, that's Michelle. I know you want to probably vote on your resolution.
Thank you, Chuck. Yeah, I want to call the question and remind everybody that it includes taking into consideration all the comments tonight.
Well, I was going to actually see if others who raised their hands since then had a chance, because I did dominate the time. So I know DJ and Judy have their hands up.
All right, before we vote, let's go ahead, DJ first.
Thanks, I'll be quick. Just a question that raised as you were answering Craig's. So in terms of service to Rockaway in the summer, it sounds like there's essentially going to be 4 different routes, which is Soundview, the new Rockaway Beach service, but then the Rockaway Rocket and the Rockaway Reserve are continuing.
That's not something that we can guarantee every year, but we have been doing it for the past 2 years, and hopefully we're able to continue it for the upcoming years. In terms of the special services, so Rockaway Rocket and Rockaway Reserve.
Okay, and those are faster. So I guess what I'm wondering is, for people who don't want the 2-hour, almost 2-hour ride, are you still going to see the transfer, or trying to time it so you get on like the Reserve or Rocket down at Wall Street? And maybe it's an okay trade-off where they will pay more, but maybe get there faster versus staying on the Soundview. I'm just trying to understand like the trade-off.
Yeah, the 2 hours would be, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Nina, it would be from like one end all the way to the other end. It's not like if you're going from Styco over East 34th that it would be 2 hours.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. I guess Judy had something. Judy, do you want to say? But you put your hand
Judy
up.
lowered her hand.
Okay. One last comment is Starlight Harris.
Starlight, you have the option to unmute if you have something that you'd like to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to find the unmute button. I know this is probably, it probably was already brought up. I'm coming late to the meeting. I had another meeting and it's a lot going on right now. But the Roosevelt Island situation with the ferries, there's like the service is very infrequent, and just wondering if they're going to be adding any additional ferries to the Roosevelt Island, ferry stop.
Not specific to a stop. We would discuss this earlier, but we would be adding more vessels to power the changes, and so to make sure that, you know, one of the things that we're thinking about is and prioritizing here is making sure that commutes are shorter overall, and so to deliver on this new map, we would be deploying more vessels to the entire network. That's not to say that like frequency specifically for Roosevelt Island would increase, but we are thinking through the changes here that would make the overall commute time shorter.
Okay, and you are planning on doing, having service on the west side of Manhattan, or?
Yes, there already is existing service on the west side that goes from St. George up through Midtown West. As you'll see on the right-hand side, or proposing is connecting that through Bay Ridge, Atlantic Avenue to Boston.
Okay, and then one other one I'm curious about is, oh my gosh, it just fell right out of my brain just that quick. In addition to Roosevelt Island, it was the west side, but also, oh my gosh, ugh, mm, mm, oh boy, mm. Like the connections sometimes to South Brooklyn, sometimes I go there, are really horrible. Like when I'm coming from Roosevelt Island and I'm trying to make the connection to go to South Brooklyn, I end up missing the connection and having to wait an hour. So is that going to possibly change, or is that going to just remain the same? And also, in addition, I wanted to know, have they decided to start service over in Coney Island?
Yeah, as to the timings and times of the transfers, we don't have that yet. Right now, we're just focused on the proposed map, but as part of that, we don't have exact times right now. But once we go into, once we approve the map, and then that will determine, the schedule that would then be published later this year. And then as for Coney Island, you may be aware that there were previous plans for Coney Island service. Ultimately, we had to do through an analysis of alternative landings due to some community feedback, and it was deemed unfeasible to continue with those plans there due to changing conditions and costs related to the other alternate sites we looked at. So right now, as part of this, Coney Island service is not a part of it.
Okay, thank you. Judy, you're the last one. Absolutely. If you still want to say something.
I want to call the question, or second calling the question.
Second calling the question. So let's vote. We're voting. Okay, all those in favor of.
Yeah, let me take. Yeah, let me just
roll
take the roll.
first. Yeah, take the roll first.
Yeah. Okay. It's me, Chuck, DJ, John, Judy, Lori, Michelle, Paul, Sebastian, Sharon, and TJ. Did I miss any members of CB8?
No, I think you got everyone.
Okay. All right. So if you're in favor of the resolution presented by Michelle, approving it, taking into account the various comments that were made, you don't have to do anything. Anyone who wants to vote against or abstain or not voting for cause should raise their hand.
I'm voting no.
Okay. Anyone besides Craig? Do we see anyone?
No.
No. Okay. That passed. Thank you, folks from EDC, for your presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you very, very much.
And we'll see how things develop. Okay. Next we have, is there anything from DOT, any announcements and things that the NYC DOT would like to tell us?
Hey, good evening, everybody. No, I do not have any
thing to report on, unless you do have any questions or concern that is for me then to entertain.
Any questions for DOT? Judy Schneider?
Hi, Raphael. I'm just checking with you to make sure that you got my letter about 63rd and 2nd. I know it may be too soon for an answer, but I just want to make sure you got it.
Yes, I did, Judy, and I appreciate your concern, and I will look forward to get an answer for you.
Okay, and I did ask both chairs, and they don't seem to remember this having ever been discussed here at committee.
Yes, it'll be interesting to know whether that had been presented to the board or the transportation committee in the past. Perhaps Will can look into it or remember.
Oh,
Well,
well,
I
I'll
would
send
say-
you a copy of the letter. I didn't send it to you.
Oh, okay.
Judy, just for everyone's benefit, would you mind just
Oh,
stating what
well,
this is in reference to?
yes, just so everybody knows. They took down the security fences on the east and west side, on the south side of Second Avenue and 63rd Street. So the traffic coming off the 59th Street Bridge, when those fences were up, flew by more smoothly. And also with those fences up, we had less accidents. These fences were put up in sometime between 2005 and 7 when Barry was chair of the board, and we did a walk around with Iris Winchell, who was commissioner of DOT, to look at all the traffic from the 59th Street Bridge and what could be done. And it was her idea to put them up that we'd have fewer citations and accidents, which we actually did. I haven't heard back from the 19th. I have a call into them to find out what the numbers are now, but I know when they were put in initially, the traffic incidences went way down.
So just to follow up on that, they've been creating the crosswalk there, and they're going to install the signals very soon.
Well, I think that before they do that we need to have more discussion on it. And I
Okay.
certainly would like to have the 19th weigh in, and maybe they can dig up some of the old statistics.
Yes, the issue was, Raphael, people making left turns coming off the bridge were just going, and it was very hard to cross on the south side there. And there were problems, and that's the reason the fences were put up back in, as Judy said, around 2005 or 7. And so it's been a long time they've been up. And before you change them, I think it needs to be looked at carefully. That's Judy's
I
concern.
understand. I was told that it has been presented to your committee in the past. I don't have the exact day, but it's something that we should look into it. And I will bring it up to my supervisor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe you can
if you
put a
think when it
hold.
might be, if you have a date when a year when they might, we can check our minutes and see if we have anything, but that's
Um,
about it.
Maybe
Certainly,
you can put a hold on the painting of the crosswalk.
yeah, I will certainly do that. Judy, I promise you that I will follow this up.
Okay.
So we can
Because
get
I think it's a real issue, particularly if the rate starts going up again. Walkers, bikers, motor vehicles, everything. It was a problem.
right. Well, I do not have that much detail on this event. We usually base our implementation of actions on statistics, meaning police
Well, I'll try
reports.
and go back to the police and see. I called today. I couldn't get anyone. I'll follow up again tomorrow, and I'll see if we can if they have a record of the old statistics as well, so that we can pass that on.
And I will certainly look into what led to this change, and I will speak with the unit that is in charge of making this happen, so I can learn more about the issue, and then I will be able to provide you with more details on the reason why.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Raphael. Okay. Let's go to the public here first. It's got and then we'll take the board. Dylan Yen, have something you want to comment on?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So I guess two questions. Raphael, thank you. One of the things that causes, I think, immense traffic backups now even around the same area as 62nd, 61st, coming off the upper level of the Queensboro Bridge, is the removal of one lane. I think on 62nd Street, northbound to First Avenue. One of the things I think DOT did was to remove a lane to put in a bike lane and a buffer. And I think our councilwoman, Julie Menon, said, I think wrote to your office and asked about reviewing the intersection for maybe putting, I don't know, a concrete barrier instead of a huge 8-foot buffer, so that you can maintain 2 lanes coming off the bridge. Because sometimes, especially on weekends where the rightmost lane turns into a parking lane, it's 1 lane coming off that bridge turning northbound, and it's the only route that doesn't get hit with congestion pricing. And sometimes it backs up all the way past Roosevelt Island and the Queens. I was just wondering if there's anything DOT said about that.
And Raphael, excuse me, before you continue, I just want to provide a little history there because I was actually going to bring up this sort of the same issue.
Go ahead.
So way back in the day, probably 7-8 years ago, we actually, before the bike lane was installed, made a request and DOT implemented it to change the parking regulations on the north side of East 62nd Street between the bridge and First Avenue, to change it to no standing every day of the week, to allow for that second lane to be in place to prevent the backups from occurring on the exit ramp on the upper level. Since the bike lane was installed and the new permanent materials were put in and the permanent changes was in place, and that elimination of a lane occurred, the problem is actually the fact that because of the loss of the lane, the southbound side is no standing except on Sundays, and Sundays in particular are an issue because you lose that additional capacity there that is desperately needed. So I was going to actually say, can we revisit the parking regulations on the south side of 62nd Street, which already are no standing 6 days a week, but to be able to make that a full-time condition so that it could facilitate better traffic flow coming off the bridge and reduce delays and reduce poor air quality that results from the congestion that takes place there.
We received that letter from Councilmember Menens, and we are reviewing it, and you will get a response soon. That's the only thing I can tell you right now. I don't know much detail on the discussion on how to approach this particular issue, but a response is being prepared.
All right. Well, I would also request that you look into the no standing zone as well.
Yes, certainly. I'll make a point of bringing that up. Your comments were well taken.
Thank you.
All right, good. Thank you. Okay, next, Evelyn David. Go ahead, Evelyn.
Hi, good evening. I'm going to ask if I can speak to the that day when the Park Avenue was open to bikers, you know, the Open Streets Day. Can I make a little comment about the fiasco? You do know what happened.
I'm not familiar with.
You don't know. Okay, unless you park your car on Park Avenue and know that every day, every year, we always know this. Get your car out of there on Friday before that weekend. For 3 weekends, there's no parking on the Saturday. So we are told the signs went up a week in advance. There are red signs. They're posted everywhere. We were already prepared. Get your car out of there by Friday at 5 o'clock. I came to get my car at 10:30 in the morning on Friday. It was gone. I walked over to a policewoman who rolled down her window and said, "We didn't do it." I hadn't said a word, right? She pointed to the sign and said they changed the time removal for the cars to midnight. the night before. I said, what? You see the little white tag, she said. Oh, yes. It says 12 a.m. Oh, 12 a.m. It turns out that they tagged all the red signs from 58th Street, both sides of the street on Park Avenue, up to 96th Street, and removed all the cars during the night. Mine is removed at 2:45 a.m. and stuck on a curb around the corner, so not too far away. Somebody else's car was put down at Brooklyn Bridge. Oh, must have been really happy. So as I'm on the phone trying to get the police, the girl next to me is on her phone with her lawyer. So anyway, the police were totally ashamed about this, said, we're so sorry, it wasn't us. DOT made us do this. Oh, I got it. Okay, so anyway, told me where my car was. That was the end of that. Then I called Keith Tower's office, and Ben answered the phone, and he said to me 3 times, they what? They what? What did they do? I said, okay, then I explained the situation. You cannot change signs the day before. That is completely unbelievable, unimaginable, and unacceptable. And I don't know who the DOT person is that's connected now to CB8, but they should be rethinking this whole thing. So basically, what they did by closing Park for 3 weekends on Saturday from the Brooklyn Bridge to Inwood is 20 miles of roads. And that is unmanageable by the police. And the police were astounded that DOT had done this. But what can they do? So the question is, who are the taxpayers and where did the money come from to tow all the cars? Right? That's our money. It came out of the police budget, but police budget is taxpayer money. Okay, the other thing is how many cars were moved. Okay, I mean, can you imagine? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cars, all relocated.
Sum up here, Evan. Come on.
This is about the Open Street program that DOT
Summer
sponsors.
Streets, I believe she's referring to. Summer Streets.
Yes, exactly. The Summer Street.
Summer Streets, right.
That's correct. But we usually post those signs a few days before the weekend. Actually, we began to post those at the beginning of the Summer Street program, which was 3 or 4 weeks ago. And there was a schedule on those flyers indicating that the street will be open to pedestrian, and therefore vehicle will have to be removed or, well, relocated, as you have indicated. So that's basically what we do. But those signs are placed on those locations way before the Saturday that the summer programs is implemented.
It's apparently not what happened. Maybe you could check into that. That's what she was saying.
Yeah, I would bring that up as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's saying that the times were changed for which cars
Right.
needed to be removed. Not, she wasn't questioning when they were posted. She was questioning the fact that the time was changed, or the time that was posted was not the time that it actually happened, and that the towing occurred much earlier.
Got it. We'll look.
Okay. Yeah, see if you can look into that.
Yes.
And report back on that. Okay. Andrew Fine is next.
Hello, everybody. Happy fall to everybody. I had 2 points or 2 questions for the DOT, and Craig and Chuck, I know you're very, very, very familiar with the first one, which is the lack of signage for alternate side of the street parking on Lexington Avenue, on the east side of the avenue, for virtually the entirety between 96th Street and 59th Street, which we were promised, I think it was about a year ago now, that they were going to pilot the east side of the street to actually allow for street sweepers to come through. I just feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, and I'm really actually
Because you are.
I know. I feel so defeated in this because I keep repeating myself. It's what do they say about if you keep doing the same thing, get the same result? Again, it's been forever. Yeah, I guess in 2020 or 2021, the DOT undertook to put a offset bike lane or bus lane on Lexington Avenue. they inadvertently removed all alternate side street parking so that there was no hour of any day, of any week, of any month, any year that they could actually sweep Lexington Avenue. DOT undertook a quote unquote pilot to bring back alternate side on the west side of the street about a year and a half ago, and promised to do so on the east side of the street a year ago, and butt kiss, nada. That's question number one. And thank you for allowing me the time. But also, East 84th Street and East 85th Street, we were milled, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago now. It's the Wild West. It's disgraceful. I know that the DOT has an excuse to have a delay between milling and paving, and if the milling gets delayed, then the paver gets delayed. It's I think we're going on 4 weeks. It's not on the schedule this week to repave. The manhole covers are about 9 to 12 inches above the rest of the surface. Everybody's driving around. It's not just cars that are affected. Bikes are increasingly on the sidewalk because they don't want to bust their tires. Same thing with the mopeds. I mean, it's awful. What is the excuse for I mean, and it was the summer, it was pre-Labor Day. It was a perfect time to shut down the streets and just pave them. But here we are. It's over 3 weeks. I think it's pushing 4 weeks. It could be longer. We're still not on the schedule. I mean, come on, guys. Can you give me
Thank
some
you.
reasoning here?
Thank you, Andrew. And for the first question, you could bring it up any times you want. It allows me to learn more about it.
I wish there was more like cohesion and
now, just for my benefit, as far as learning about this particular issue, very well. If you could send me an email directly
Craig,
to me.
help me here, Craig.
It's very brief, just to keep me on top of that particular matter, and then I'll continue on asking questions. Regarding your second point, that will be done. As a matter of fact, someone has send me an email in regard to that particular locations as far as the mailing and then repaving it right away. It's going to happen, I was told, next week. I think it was from the 8th to the 15th. Don't quote me on this, but if I remember correctly, it will be done. They already are aware of this inconvenience that has created amongst the residents of that area. So it is on the radar already.
Is there any reason why it takes over a month to go from milling to paving?
What I can tell you is that that operation hinges on many variables, including rain, including weather, it's a bunch of other things.
It's been a drought.
That's true.
I was ready for that one.
It rained once in the last month.
But
I can tell you because I handle the tree pits on 86th Street.
Well,
it's not been good.
I'm not an expert, so I apologize. No, it has some other variable as well that I'm unable to bring up because of my lack of detailed information on this particular event.
Is there any reason why I should have to send you an email about the lack of alternate side street parking on Lexington Avenue? Because this is something like Ed Pinkar and prior, and I'm asking, I'm calling a lifeline here. Craig, please help me out. Chuck,
it's funny
Craig, help me.
It's funny that you were going to say that you're saying that, because I was going to interject if you didn't bring it up to basically say to Raphael, with all due respect, that should not fall upon you or us, that there is a lot of history that should be widely available at New York City DOT within the Manhattan Borough office to be able to allow for anyone who is assigned to our board to be able to quickly get up to speed. We should not have to, and there are many meetings in which we've discussed this before, so
And
I think
60 days
that would
ago, I
be,
forwarded you
No,
our
let me
resolution as
make
well.
a couple, let me make a couple of comments, Raphael, here. First of all, Andrew was right. We passed a resolution saying they ought to put the street cleaning regulations back. DOT was going to do it. Then something changed, and Colleen sent us a letter basically saying they had consulted with the sanitation department and they decided they're not going to do it. And that was what so that's why when you said, you're pushing a rock up the hill many times again, I think they've made up their mind not to do it, Andrew, in spite of the fact.
Well, that's not entirely true, Chuck, because I had multiple conversations with the Department of Sanitation. They were 100% behind it. And Colleen assured me that that this was going to happen. And then
right. Well,
where did everybody
we
go?
got the letter. We got the letter. We can, and I'm sure you've seen the letter.
Anyway, like I said, I'm like, I should just admit defeat and just crawl under a rock somewhere and just let the streets rot, because what's the point? I'm wasting my breath, and my breath is probably spent better somewhere else. I mean, talking to the DOT and having them do anything is just
not always true,
anyway,
but
thank you for your time.
and I think maybe we should consider as a board revisiting this and passing another resolution. It's probably at this point in time something we may want to take up again.
We have new leadership. We have a new acting borough commissioner who we had a nice chat with before on something, and why don't we raise the issue again? But on your second,
I'd like you to allow me brief comments in regard to the question as to why I asked for an email. And the reason being is, if you could just a brief, nothing detailed on everything that had occurred throughout its history, but just a brief comments about the fact that this has been going on for a long, long time. That will enable me to escalate that through that email to bring this into a very appropriate conversation amongst the people at the DOT that are really that have looked at this before me coming into this, this time. So that's the reason why I ask. It's not to go into detail. I have heard this conversation before, but again, I think that it would be helpful for me to kind of show this as an evidence that indeed this is something that has been going on for so long. You either say no or do it.
That's a very bureaucratic answer. I'm sorry, but
I'm like, honestly, I have a white shirt. I'm just going to throw in the white flag. I give up. We've been doing this for 3 years. You've passed resolutions. I've had a million emails. All I'm trying to do is get Lexington Avenue to be cleaner than it is, to have a sweeper come through periodically and clean the street. And if this is something that's not a priority to the DOT, that managed to put a bike lane down 3rd Avenue in about 10 minutes, but in 3 years they can't get a damn sweeper down the street, I give up. Thank you very much. I rest my case.
I just want to make one comment.
And somebody else can send them an email, because I'm done sending emails, but thank you.
I want to make a comment about the milling and paving. The excuse that's always been given is that there are a lot of utilities and other things that have to be coordinated. And the reason they let so much time go by is because there's things that may have to be done while the streets have been milled and they don't want to pave over if Con Edison's going to come back right afterwards and say, we have to dig up an area. Now, I never could quite figure out why they can't coordinate those issues. I mean, there may be emergencies that come up, but that's always been the excuse that they've given. But I do agree again with Andrew. That's one of the more annoying things, that it takes so long between the milling and paving, and the streets are in terrible conditions, while you're waiting for that. But well, that's enough of that. So let's.
I was just going to bring a reassuring sign. Walking home today, I saw the signs posted on York Avenue that the paving is going to actually be taking place tonight. So the fact that it's now the
Good for
paving
you.
starting around here is hopefully a good sign.
Well, Second Avenue, I don't know if they've done anything on Second Avenue. I haven't been there since in a few days.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so Second Avenue, 84th, 85th, and I'm
Michelle's shaking her head no, so she knows. That's in terrible conditions, because what you said, those manholes stick up so high, you have to watch yourself. They're not even easy to cross the street on foot, let alone drive a car. Okay, let's go to Michelle. DJ actually had his hand up first earlier. Go ahead, DJ.
Hi, Raphael. I'm wondering if you can comment, is there a 72nd Street redesign in the works? Somebody I know on CB7 on the west side said that may be moving forward. I know it's been talked about for a couple of years. And if so, is the east side contemplated for that as well?
Can you repeat that again? I didn't hear you very well.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? Is there a 72nd Street redesign being contemplated? Somebody I know on CB7 commented that may be moving forward for comment, at least, because I know it's been out there for a couple of years. There's been plans floating around.
Yes, and it will be it's being talked about. It's in the
Well, we're just so DJ, just so you know, we may get a presentation in October
Yes.
soon about putting a bike lane in on 72nd Street, which was quite a big thing, a few years back. And they're coming back with a proposal, and that's part of it, I think. So that may come up in our October meeting, or if not,
it will be on the October meetings, and we're planning on sending flyers just to let everyone knows that is happening.
Okay.
Sure, that would be completely uncontentious.
I expect we'll have a crowd that's rather large. Since the last time we talked about this issue, we had about, I would say, 250 people on Zoom. Wouldn't you say so, Craig?
these are always attracting the most people whenever we talk about bike lanes. Maybe Woody Allen will even show up again.
May I speak?
I will be sending.
Can we move? May I speak? I've been unmuted, please. Number one, Chuck, you're right about Second Avenue. And to Raphael, it's a little ridiculous, the argument that the street remains unpaved because of the possibility of access for utility or other repairs. It seems that when you mill a street, you can already check with the other agencies and see if they're planning anything. You don't wait around. You can wait around for 6 months to see if anybody's planning to do anything. It needs a little more coordination than that. And please take these specific comments back to the office. They should check and coordinate before they mill a street. Then they should know when it's going to be paved and how much time they need. Second Avenue is awful, and it's the whole length of Second Avenue up until 86th Street, all the way up. It's a nightmare. Anyway, the comment I was originally going to make, 2 comments, maybe even 3 comments. It's no surprise to anybody on this board, on this committee, my feeling of real disdain for the summer street program. And when it was mentioned before how there was very little notice about what was the program, Craig, that you were mentioning? We didn't. The
summer program, summer street.
Yeah, no, not the summer streets. The one anyway. The point is, this board never had an opportunity to review this program, and this program was from 7 to 1 on the 4 Saturdays. It went from downtown, the Battery, up until around 96th Street. Then over the past few years, it starts in the morning. It now is moved up to 3 in the afternoon. It's now extended all the way up to Inwood. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are adversely affected by this program, just so a few people can have additional bike riding access. They have parks to ride their bikes in, they have bike lanes to ride their bikes in. This is very, very inconvenient. There are 2,000 people that live between 79th Street and 86th Street alone. Multiply that from the Battery up to Inwood. How many thousands you're inconveniencing? And believe me, the street was not crowded with bike riders. There are a few bike riders, and the resources and the money that's spent on this program in a city that's always crying about money, just making and putting the signs up and taking the signs down, having a monitor at every corner, notifying, processing, towing. It's ludicrous to spend this money on this that inconveniences way more people than it pleases. Please take those comments back. The other thing is, on the comment to talk about changing of the parking rules on 61st Street. That's not something we can just discuss. That has to be posted. All the people on 61st Street have to be posted, and the neighborhood, before we can talk about extending the no standing or making it whatever it is you want to make it. So we can't just talk about that as an afterthought at the end of a meeting. So if you're going to put that on the agenda, then you got to put it on the agenda with enough advance.
Been said, we always post it before we put it on the agenda.
Well,
So
that's what I'm saying, because it sounded like it was going to be discussed tonight, and that's
No,
why I'm
no,
saying
no,
it needs to
no.
be posted.
We're
All right,
not
my last point, when I was looking at the at last night's street life meeting, I looked at the agenda. I couldn't attend the meeting, but I looked at the agenda, and everyone, and I'm asking this as a question for Raphael to clarify some facts here. Every item on the agenda clarified that they were asking for unenclosed outdoor cafes. It was my understanding that the new rules are all unenclosed outdoor cafes, whether they're on the street or in the roadbed. Can you clarify that for me?
You talk about enclosed
Outdoor cafes. Well, the description on the street
So
light,
Michelle,
and then
can I
can you
answer
answer
that?
that, Will?
Because
Yeah.
that's a more me question than that is a Raphael
Okay.
question.
Okay.
So there is still the old enclosed program from the diners that you sort of imagine the diner that sticks out a little bit into the sidewalk where it's sort of on
No,
the
that's the
corner.
one that's attached to the building.
Yeah, that's what we were clarifying, is because eventually we will start to hear those applications as well. But right now we're only hearing the roadway and the sidewalk, and those all are unenclosed.
Okay,
But
so that was,
eventually, because we're building a system that will see applications well after I'm gone, actually. But there will be applications that we're just not hearing yet. And those are
well,
for the old enclosed,
all right, so the point
grandfathered
is so the
things.
roadway and the street, when there's a separation between the
Yeah.
building, they're all unenclosed. That was my understanding.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why I didn't understand this. Now, what you're referring to, Will,
Yeah.
those were illegally attached. Those were violations. There
No,
were
no,
two.
no, 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 no. Further back than that. Further back than this is pre-COVID, olden days, where they would build out the glass wall along
Yes, I know what
yeah,
you're referring to,
yeah, those are
but
all
that was
grandfathered
never,
in.
but they were never legal.
She's right.
Yes, they were.
No,
They had a whole outdoor dining. They had the sidewalk cafe.
not addition to a building. Not an, for, I don't, well, anyway, we have time to clarify. Can you
Yeah.
clarify that if you have time?
Yeah. No, I
Because
can
my
talk to you offline
understanding,
about
and
that.
there's a perfect example of it on the northwest corner of 89th Street and 2nd, where they actually built an attachment to a building and they were given multiple violations for it. Now you're
Yeah, but that's
saying,
you're talking about stuff that was happening after
I know,
COVID. I'm
you're
talking about
saying
stuff
that
that
that was,
happened before I was
you're
born.
saying that that was permitted at one time?
No.
It was not.
No,
Anyway,
I'm
clarify it.
saying before I was born, these diners that you guys all know so well were building these glass outdoor, like actual glass, not,
I know what you're talking
yeah,
about.
yeah, those things were a program that the Department of Consumer Affairs and City Planning used to approve as enclosed cafes pre-COVID, before the modification to the new outdoor dining rules.
Well, let me say
And so
this.
they
Well,
still
listen,
do
let's quit
exist, and
beating
they will
this.
have to
Let's
have
quit
I was
beating this
around
up.
before you were born. So
I
let me
know.
say this. I don't remember this ever being a program. However, can
Yeah,
you please find out if that's actually true? Or
yeah, yeah.
direct me where I can find out if
Yeah,
that was actually true.
we'll clarify that. We'll clarify that.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Sharon Pope Marshall.
Thank you, Chuck. I just wanted to say that we should all be concerned when Andrew Fine throws up his hands. And I just want you to know, Andrew, that I have your back. I will
Don't
send
encourage him.
Hi, Sharon.
Go ahead. Anything
Well,
else, Sharon?
I will follow up and send an email to Raphael, who I know has the best intentions at heart, but I don't know, ever want you to give up, Andrew, for sure. And also, and following up Michelle's comments regarding summer streets, I guess summer streets. I also want you to take back, Raphael, that Summer Streets is really a program that is a gem in this city overall. And I completely support all of the efforts that is expended to pull something like this off for the benefit of this city, to make it one of the world-class cities that have these types of programs also. So I want you to ensure that my comments are reflected as well when you do your debrief at DOT. And Raphael, you'll be getting an email from me tomorrow.
I always looking forward to.
All right, thanks. Thank you. Let's cut these short. Come on already. DJ?
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I wasn't planning to speak again, but echoing Sharon, after hearing Michelle's comments, I just want to say I think Summer Streets is a great program. I was out biking on it one day. I was out walking with my baby on the stroller the other day. It was quite well attended. There were thousands and thousands of people out, especially when you got downtown below Broadway. And I think, it kind of takes Park Avenue back to what it was before you were born, Michelle. Before there were, wide roadways, it was a truly linear park if you look way back in history. And it gives, just for a few weekends, people can get a taste of that. Being able to walk or bike past the MetLife building right through Midtown. It's really cool. I encourage you next year to actually go walk it. If it inconveniences a few people, it's drivers, but thousands of walkers and bikers get to enjoy it. So
You were able to come up to Inwood, where I live.
Right. Okay. Well, I think we're hopefully getting to the end here. But I see Evelyn David wants to make another comment. So go ahead, Evelyn.
Dear Raphael, and to the board, I want to make it extremely clear that you do not change things in the middle of the night and then remove thousands of cars. That is very, very, very stressful to the people whose cars. We came to get them out of there in plenty of time. Okay, just so everybody knows. And yes, I know that you've been doing city streets for a long time, the people that live in the neighborhood where we have to remove all the cars are fully aware of that. And yes, the signs were put up a week in advance, but then they changed the sign at midnight the night before. Okay, that is not cool, very unthoughtful, and it only shows that the DOT must have had an afterthought from Brooklyn Bridge up to Inwood. Oh my goodness, how are we going to get all the cars out of there? I know what happened. I worked in city government. Somebody went, "Aye, how are we going to get the cars out?" So they had the police move everybody without telling anybody. But that's a huge no-no. Do not, I'm just saying, think ahead. Really think ahead. And from Brooklyn Bridge up to Inwood is a very unmanageable stretch. That's what I'm trying to get across. If you're going to keep doing this, do it with respect for everybody without going back and breaking all the rules. That's all. You know, we appreciate everybody trying to make things nice for everybody. That's great. So you can enjoy. But, and all the police that are out there, by the way, the police get out there at 3 o'clock in the morning and they work through the next day into 5 o'clock at night. You are also paying for the police. So, you know, Michelle is completely correct in how much money it costs to run this. That is a gift, okay? That's a gift. But don't abuse the people that are, you know,
Thank you,
live here,
Evelyn.
work here. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. Okay.
Thank you for your feedback.
I don't see any further business here. And so before we adjourn, we once again want to thank Will for all his great service to the committee and the board and helping make these meetings run with his great technical proficiency. So we wish him the best in his new adventure.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Will.